Okay, tonight's episode number 10 out of the 31 days of Halloween masks here on my channel. So this episode is going to be really cool, especially for you older guys out there that were big fans of Warren Publishing. Warren made these incredible magazines like EERIE and Creepy, Vampirella, all the greats. So Don Post ended up releasing Cousin Eerie and Uncle Creepy masks in the 60s and 70s. These are modern copies, okay, of these classic masks by Don Post. But they released the latex rubber versions, in the early 70s. Like, I know that Cousin Eerie made it. I think he could have debuted in the 1972 Don Post catalog. I'm a little rusty on exactly what year these came out in latex. There were earlier versions in the 60s that are a lot different looking, but these are some of the coolest versions, in my opinion, because they were so detailed and they can be super rare, especially good old Cousin Eerie. So Uncle Creepy and Cousin Eerie were your hosts, your horror hosts. When you were reading EERIE magazine or Creepy magazine, they were the hosts that were going to, take you to the stories and tell you, you're going to start reading these stories, and they were going to introduce them to you. So these pulls here, there is an original production mold out there that is so rare from the mid-70s, early to mid-70s Cousin Eerie. And Uncle Creepy, there is a mold on him as well. And there's probably a few molds on him by now. But just to get a copy of this Cousin Eerie was so hard. There's a handful poured out of that original mold. And I want you guys to keep watching this, because we're going to go way beyond these newer copies. We're going to get into some spectacular, rare stuff coming here. So what I'm trying to say is, I wanted a Cousin Eerie. Creepy was a lot easier to get your hands on, but a Cousin Eerie, from that big, beautiful production mold was like nearly impossible. You had to know a guy that knew a guy that knew this other guy, and maybe if you plop down a serious amount of money, you might get your hands on a blank. And that's exactly what I did maybe 10 years ago. So what I did, I'm going to get my other copy here. Let me put these guys aside here for a second. I want you to know how truly amazing it is just to have a copy like this in my possession, let alone two of them. So the first one I got, it was in a blank form. It was sold to a guy who promised he would never sell that blank. It was never going to leave his possession. Sometimes in this mask hobby, things get really weird. Really, you have to sign a contract in blood that you're never getting rid of a certain piece that someone is letting you buy. Okay, they're allowing you to buy something that's so rare. And I get it, because let's say this blank got into the wrong hands of this super rare mask, okay, this early 70s Cousin Eerie. I'll tell you exactly what would happen. I had some goofball, when I posted my blank, some guy on Instagram goes, "Oh, let me borrow it for a day so I can mold it." And then there's going to be 10,000 rubber Eerie's out there with crappier quality, and they're smaller, and then everyone's going to have one, and this amazingly rare piece is going to be hoed out the door for, $25 a copy. And that you want to protect the integrity of that rare piece. If someone tells you, don't sell it or don't let it get in the wrong hands, you better, try to abide by those rules, because these are important pieces. All right. Some people argue saying, "Oh, it's so rare, everyone should have it. I don't know. It gets in that weird collector, area where, it's not that rare if there's a million of them floating around. And it's a lot cooler when you see a couple of these and they look as great as they can. And it's not like everyone could get their hands on them. It's a special piece to own. And we're going to get into something even more special shortly. But so basically, there was a set of 3 out there. I'm not going to tell you much about them, but they were made by a very special friend of mine in the hobby. And he made 3 of these copies for 3 of his special friends. We weren't that special of friends at the time, so I didn't get one. And he had Rob Tharp of Don Post Studios paint the 3 copies all alike with strict instructions so that they resembled the old 1970s copies. The gray bags under his eyes, the red lips, the yellowed teeth, and he even wanted the hair specifically laid a certain way, like the old Cousin Erie did around 1975 or so. So this whole time I saw those 3 out there, and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to get one of those. I ended up getting one later. But when I got that blank of that EERIE, which was, am I rolling here? Which was a miracle. It was a miracle, but I had to lay out some serious cash for a blank mask. You would not believe what I paid for a blank, okay? Let's just say it was over $1,000. So, I got that blank, and knowing how special those 3 were, especially to my friend, who's now a great friend of mine, I said, there's no way I can send this to Rob Tharp, formerly of Don Post Studios, one of the greatest painters we know from the good old days of Don Post Studios. I cannot send him that blank and say, I want to make it just like those, man. Make me one of them. No way, Jose. I would be shunned. I would be in trouble. Let's just put it there. Okay. Let's just put it that way. I would be in trouble. So I discovered a superior photo of the 1972 catalog copy of Cousin Erie. The way he looked in the catalog was a lot different than he looked around 75, 76, 77. He started looking a little different. So I talked to Rob, and the crazy thing is, Rob was painting these in 72, 73, 74. Imagine getting a blank of this rare mask that was put out when I was a little kid and being able to talk to the man who painted them in the 70s and go, you're my guy. I want you to paint it now. It's a crazy thing. I feel so lucky that I was able to do this. So I got this catalog photo of the 1972 Cousin Erie, and I said, you know what? I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but 1972 is one of the greatest years of all time, because that's when I was born. So I said, I'm going to make one look like a mask that came out when I was born, in 72. It's in the 72 catalog. It doesn't look like these special ones, and everything should be cool. So he actually had stubble. They were putting stubble on some of these copies. He had like lighter blue on his eyes. I said, you got to do the hair just like that catalog photo. I wanted to really represent the 72 catalog. So Rob did a killer job. First I had it foam filled. Rob painted it, haired it. He even gave him these great bloodshot eyes. He looks like he's been hanging out in California for a while. We'll just say that, okay? And it showed up, and it was truly one of my favorite pieces of my collection. And then a few things happened years later, and a good friend of mine had to sell his special copy. And I said, you got to let me buy that from you, and I'll keep them together, and they will be here. You'll be able to come see it anytime you want. And, if he ever has the chance to buy it back someday, I'll definitely give him that chance to get it back in his collection. I knew he did not want to sell that mask, and I said, don't just sell it to anyone out there. Lots of guys will say, I gotta have that. Oh my God, I'll pay you way more money than you paid for it. Or, you know, please sell it to me. Oh my God, please, it's so special to me. Then they buy it from you, and then 3 months later, you see it for sale again in a group, and you're like, well, what are you doing, man? Like, you just gotta have it to show off to people, and then you're just flipping it right away. He knows I was gonna keep this sucker, and it's safe. So anyway, we got 2 Cousin Eries here, and a Great Uncle Creepy. This was also painted by Rob Tharp. You could just tell his style here on these 2 beautiful masks. And the great thing about this I don't know if this was a master mold or not, but it's got that great squared forehead where a lot of recasts out there lose that and they start getting rounded. This thing has great definition in the face on this Uncle Creepy. So these 2 characters, I never thought I would get originals. The original Cousin Eerie is so rare. I've only known of maybe 2 original copies out there until I saw one in a friend's collection that blew me away. And the story behind it was even more special. So finding an original like this is next to impossible. Finding the blanks are next to impossible. But we're going to put all these guys aside, and I'm going to show you what I started to accumulate later on, because I found a genuine Uncle Creepy. Let's grab him. So check this out. This is a real deal Don Post production mask of Uncle Creepy, and it was brand new and tagged, never worn, old store stock that surfaced, and I could not believe it was up for auction, and I went nuts. And the funny thing is, the person that had it didn't know what it was, and they called him Old Man with Warts was the title on the eBay auction. And I told my friend, I go, oh my God, they're calling it Old Man with Warts. I hope no one else sees it. And of course, other people saw it. And I put a crazy bid on it, and I nabbed it. This is years ago now. Now, this is a vintage copy cast in black latex. You probably can't tell right now, but it was cast in black latex like a 70s mask would be. However, this copy, if you guys remember the other night, I was talking about these care tags. This copy was sold brand new in 82. So it's pretty much identical to like a late 70s Uncle Creepy, but it was still being sold in 82. And I don't care when this thing was sold. It's mint, mint, mint from the original mold. And I don't think I'll ever find a better original. I know where one is right now, and I would hope I can get it to keep it with what I'm about to show you next, because this video is going to get even better. I got something truly amazing recently from a friend's collection, and the circumstances are very sad about how I ended up getting it, but he would be very happy that it's here. He told me that, and I'm gonna show you this thing. And I told him every time I would visit him, I said, you got to sell me that Cousin Eerie someday. It is truly remarkable. It's gonna go in my glass cases when I'm all done with it. It is so special. It's gonna make this wall of fame. And you know, there's some things in here that are modern, like some of the Frankensteins and some of the Wolfmen, but a lot of my great pieces are on this wall. And this mask I'm about to show you is going right there with the others. So let me move these guys real quick, and I'm going to show you the most amazing Cousin Eerie I've ever seen, that I'm sure a lot of people have ever seen. So let me grab him. To my knowledge, this is the greatest Cousin Eerie that exists in any known collections. And there's a very special story behind this mask that I'm going to share with you guys. So, like I said, getting your hands on a blank is next to impossible. This is truly a holy grail for my collection. The fact that it's from my friend's collection makes it even more special. And I'm telling you, you're not going to find a mask that looks like this anywhere out there. If you know of one that looks like this, I would love to see it. Please somehow send me pictures or or tell me more about what you know, if there's one in a private collection. But this EERIE is incredible. So the story goes, this is a true story. My friend was in his late 70s, and he would tell me stories late at night on the phone about certain pieces, or we'd sit in his collection talking about masks. I'd point at a mask and say, where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? You know, who painted that one? And there was a famous convention. It was the famous Monsters Convention of 1975 in New York City. And there are great old black and white photos of this convention. In the monster world, it's like a very well-known thing was this 1975 famous Monsters Convention in New York. My friend went there. He rode the train from a different location into New York City, where he literally bought this mask right off of the Captain and Company table at the 1975 famous Monsters Convention. And a lot of you older guys are going to know exactly who Captain and Company was. He bought this, and he bought a 1975 Don Post Wolfman, which it's still in his collection right now. And he put them in his 1975 famous Monsters Convention plastic bag, which still is hanging on the garage wall, which is incredible. It's just hanging there perfectly. He's kept this his whole life. And he carried this mask home in that bag and the Wolfman on the train. And around 82, 85, I don't know, somewhere in the 80s, he decided to send this Cousin EERIE to Kathy Tharp of Don Post Studios, where Kathy put custom eye inserts for him in the mask, and she ended up sending it back, where it literally sat on a shelf for decades. He bought it in 75, sent it to Kathy, probably 6 years later, got some eyes in it, put it back on his shelf, and it never moved. And I'm telling you, it never moved. His collection is incredible. And this mask sat and sat and sat. And, God, the fact that it's here right now is unbelievable. And time has slowly started to take its toll on this guy. He was on a styrofoam head that I had to surgically remove from this mask very carefully. I was, cracking piece by piece, trying not to bust this mask, because now the latex has definitely hardened. Okay, it's not super soft. However, on the back, it's kind of soft in areas. Okay, but that, again, that styrofoam mask, I'm sure, was taking its toll on this guy and really drawing the moisture out of it somehow. And he got a little sunken in on the sides of his head here. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this mask before I have a friend professionally foam fill this, so I can preserve this for decades to come. If I don't, eventually he's going to split here. Gravity's going to take its toll on this thing, and it's going to fall apart, in 10 to 20 years. It'll be gone. And this is such an important piece that it deserves some serious attention, and I'm going to sink a little money into it and getting it foam filled and make sure this thing is going to live on way beyond my collection. Okay? Hopefully someday in the future, decades from now, someone's going to look back on this old video and they're going to learn a lot more about their Cousin EERIE when it's in their collection. So I'm going to show you this side by side with one of those amazing, those might be from the Master, I don't know, it's such a tremendous mold, those EERIEs up there. They're so big and the shapes are so beautiful. It could be a Master mold. I never even asked, but let's move this. Let's move Uncle Creepy out of the way. So, pay close attention here to like the overall shapes, okay? You can see how wide his head is here. His cheeks are fuller, his nose is wider. Here the nose is narrower, cheeks are sunken in, and that's simply because gravity has started to do its thing on this mask. Luckily, it's all here, It's not busting. It's not cracking. You can see his forehead's sunken in here a little bit. So I am going to do this really tedious, it's real tedious procedure I do with heat, okay? And I'll explain how I do this with masks like this, because before I have this foam filled, I'm going to try to get some of its shape back. Not all of it. It's just going to depend on how it moves when it's warmed up. But I could possibly get this thing looking, 30% better at least. Hopefully more. Get these cheeks to come out slightly. Maybe get the nose a little to widen up a little bit. I'm going to be so careful. I can't even begin to tell you. But, it deserves a little attention, and it deserves a try on making that shape come back, because you can see how crazy that character is when he has a beautiful shape to him. And right now the mask is pretty spectacular, but I could just see it. If I can get it to pop a little bit more, it's going to be unbelievable. And then if we foam fill it, he'll be in really nice shape. It's not bad though. He's got that nice chubby appearance. He kind of looks like Fred Flintstone face here. I want to get him looking more like the wide head Cousin Eerie if I can. So this is one truly rare Don Post mask. And gosh, I can't believe it's sitting here, and I cannot wait until he is in that wall of fame with those other rarities. Right, he will fit and be right at home there. So let's get this guy back on the shelf, and we'll get Uncle Creepy back. And that, my friends, is a genuine Uncle Creepy and Cousin Eerie. Warren Publishing's amazing mascots. If you were reading those if you were reading those magazines that came out in 1966, and they carried on in through the 70s, you guys out there will absolutely know these two crazy characters, and especially from all that great artwork that Warren put out. You've seen many versions of these guys over the years. And there are other releases of Don Post masks of Creepy and Eerie. So if you're really into these characters, look for like the 60s release masks. There's other a prototype Eerie out there that you can get your hands on, the blank of it. Pretty neat, like really cool stuff. But to me, these two are everything. Like, these are my favorites. They're known as the deluxe Creepy and Eerie. These are the deluxe ones, not the cheaper versions. So the deluxe had beautiful hair, Hollywood style paint jobs, and that's where the deluxe comes in. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I had to put up another video tonight about some problems in the hobby, and sorry about that, but it has to be done. Definitely scams going on out there. Be very careful. If you're ever weary of some seller out there, hit me up. Send me a message, comment on videos, get my attention. I pretty much know most of the people out there you're going to buy from, or know people that know them, and I will steer you in the right direction and save you from getting ripped off. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. This is episode number 10, and get ready for 11.